Good evening and welcome to the Literary Hour. We're delighted that you're here once more joining us as we discuss literature, history, the arts, and all things between. So, I am your co host, Jackie Sai, and with me, as always, is my co host, Dr. Kim Moses Nangwe. Hi, Prof.
Hello, Nina. How are you?
I'm okay. And today we're in a treat because I'm honored to introduce Dr. K. Moses Nangbe formally. And to many of us, he needs no introduction, but to the unfortunate few, here goes. Okay, and I'm going to read his bio. Dr. K. Moses Nangbe is a humanist, essayist, author, lawyer, and legal scholar, professor, mentor, historian, and all things between. He is also a founding member of the Liberian Association of Writers. Dr. Nagbe studied in Liberia and the United States, and as I mentioned previously, he enjoys a multidisciplinary background. He trained in law, language media studies, business studies, literature, art, painting, social psychology, social work, child psychology, and early childhood education. And he earned a doctorate in education, focusing on teacher support systems for productive learning. In addition to teaching for at least 40 years, his published works include about 49 adults and children's books and over 50 articles. He has been referenced in a dozen odd books and articles. Among his titles are Nuggets of the African Novel with notes on the Liberian literary heritage, Between the Scissors, Growing Up as an Afro-Stern Liberian, One Saturday in August, Wings for the Next Day, Sun at Midnight, Fright and Flight, a reflection on my refugee life in Ghana, and The Road to Romeo. Others are his recent books titled the Scum of Earth, How They Bonded and Incensed the Economic Tribe of Liberia in Election 2017, and a co-authored book titled The Crew, a short biography. Dr. Nangbe studied at schools including the Sasstown Government School, the Sino High School, the University of Liberia, the Rowan State University, and the North Central University. As I said before, he holds a PhD in education, and he has taught at the University of Liberia, where he served as president of the University of Liberia Faculty Association and the Stella Maris Polytechnic University, all in Liberia. And he in Montgomery College in America. Dr. Nangbe also served as past deputy minister for administration in Liberia's Ministry of Information. I didn't know that, Prof. And deputy for legal affairs in the Ministry of Transport. He currently teaches at the Prince George's Community College, also in the United States, and his research interests include character education, civic education, teacher support systems, education and social change, literature and national development, the media, and national conflicts. Oh, Prof. Okay. So for those of you who didn't know Prof. Nangbe, now you know a little bit about him, but we're going to get into the meat of the matter. And as we say, we're going to get to know the man, the memoirs, and the memories. So, Prof,
Yep.
we're waiting for you, and then we'll get into it.
Yep.
Prof has written a lot of books. You know, some of them, I mean, I was listing them and I was like, oh, I didn't know this one. I didn't know this one. So Prof has written, oh, I think he was being modest with the books that he has because we have some of his books here. So for those of you looking for books to buy, here are some books for you to buy, you know, and there are other books here. And I want to put a plug in for one of my indispensable reference book, which is Nuggets of the African Novel, right? It's the one I go to when I'm looking for a shortcut. When I'm looking for a shortcut, I go to that one. But as I said, we will discuss it. with our professor, who was also my professor. Yeah. So, Prof, let's get to it. Tell us a little bit about growing up in Liberia and when and about your path as an author.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and thank the Focus on Liberia family for always bringing us on board. To think about my life is to think about the concept of how an environment creates a lot of things for a child, and that is why I always say that you, whether it's government or the entire society, should never forget to make sure that the way you prepare children is the way, to a large extent, they will grow up and serve society for the betterment of humankind. I was born in Monrovia, and it wasn't that long when my father completed the William V. S. Tubman College, University of Liberia, and therefore we had to go to Sastan, where he became principal of the major government school that was there. And in that school, of course, there was a diversity of teachers, including Peace Corps volunteers, American Peace Corps volunteers. And that crop of people made it possible for me to take interest in language and to take interest in writing at a very early age. So that's pretty much how my life began. And to some extent, when my father wanted to give a speech, even at being seventh grade student, my dad would call me in the living room and he would begin to dictate his speech. And whenever I got hitch, he would say, look on your side, there is a dictionary. And that is where every time we say something, I say, what do you mean by that? That is where it came from. Define words. And sometimes you think that what you learn at an elementary level is just for nothing. But I can tell you, Miss Jackie, I can tell you that all the way to my doctoral level, some of the things that those teachers taught in that elementary school, they were much like deja vu. I came to them and I knew them, and it was just refreshing. So if there's one thing I want to emphasize as we go on to other parts of what we are doing here, nobody should ever take childhood education very, very flippantly. Everybody should be able to devote a lot of time with kindergarten, with elementary school, and when those people learn very well, they will never so easily, of course, St. Paul says that, train the child the way he should go or she should go, and when he or she is old, he will never depart from it. And that is what has been my growing up years.
So thank you, Prof. So growing up in Liberia,
Yeah.
and with your dad asking and telling you to use the dictionary
Yeah.
and to assist in
Yes.
speech writing,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
was that the first rung on the ladder towards perfecting your craft as an author?
I
How
would
did
say,
you get into the habit of the writing that became a profession?
okay. Do you know very well that at some point, and I sometimes I'm embarrassed to say that, but I didn't ask my father. So, and this was I it never came to me when I was in elementary school and a bit in middle school. I never knew that authors were often alive.
Okay.
I often I often thought that uh, any author was a dead author until until I got to the University of Liberia, and Dr. Brown, may his soul rest in peace, Dr. R. H. Brown, I'm sure
Yes.
you know him too. Uh, I was in sophomore college, and Professor Konakasu was my teacher. Just about that time, just about it was like 202 now. Just about that time, Dr. Brown's book came out after long silence.
Okay, yes, I know that.
Yes, and I often like to kind of take challenges. So he asked a question. He said, "There's a new book that came out written by one of my colleagues. Who wants to go and interview him?" And for about 1 or 2 minutes, nobody could raise a hand. Then I said, "Let me go and interview him," because you can understand now how excited I was. You mean a living author and a Liberian? No, I'm going to take up the challenge. And I went to, at that time we had, I think you are aware of, what is it? Uh, Teacher Faculty Lounge.
Yes,
Yeah, Faculty Lounge,
yes.
close by Dean's office.
His office, yeah.
Yes. And I went there. He was very, very congenial. Yes, young man, what do you want? And then I gave my mission of being there, and he opened up to me. And when he kind of told a lot of things apart, I told myself, I am going to be a writer like this man. And so that's pretty much at a higher level. That's what. But I wrote my first poem in ninth grade, and it was about love. I think we said that, and somebody said, "Love." At that level, you were thinking about love and well, but who cannot think about love if there's nothing else to think about at that time? Yes. Okay.
Okay, so as time went on, you perfected your craft.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And what was the first novel that
Hmm.
you published?
Mm-mm. Well, it really has to be even at this late hour. It had to be because a lot of them started coming really in the latter part of the latter part of the 90s and what have you. And you know that the Road to Romeo came out around 1991, 1992. Yes,
Okay.
that would be the first one. But I'd been writing articles, writing short stories, and what have you. But a major piece was the Road to Romeo.
And in your biography, as I was reading it,
Mm-hmm.
getting to know the man,
Mm-hmm.
what where was this leap from literature, from the arts to law?
Mm-hmm. No, my father had a very close friend who, to this day, I often reference as his brother. He was into law, and the idea. Some people bluff with language in terms of when they are speaking or when they are writing. It's like there are other people when they are eating, you don't want to eat. But certain people are eating, even if they are eating some dry piece of cassava, you want to get a piece of that. And that is the same thing I've noticed about the use of language, the use of words, and all that kind of a thing. And that uncle of mine was one of those. By the way, when I came to Monrovia when I arrived in Monrovia for college education, that's the first place I started. That was on Jamaica Road. Yes. So he kind of, without knowing it, he kind of got me interested in law as well.
Okay, and do you see any merging law and literature?
In fact, you will be surprised too that do you know that I did accounting as my minor
I
and English as my major? Okay, so
didn't
so
know that.
I I I I look at those as the darling languages of knowledge. The darling languages of knowledge, law, business, or accounting, and what have you, and English. Those things kind of force you to think. Those things kind of force you to a kind of structure your your ideas in such a way that they might be different from what others are thinking and how others are thinking. So that is how I've seen the merger as far as law, accounting, and English literature and all those things are concerned.
Okay, so as part of this culture
Mhm.
of the arts, right? You became the president of the Liberian Association of
Right.
Writers.
Yes.
Could you just talk briefly about that and how it came to be and where it is now?
Okay. The Liberia Association of Writers came up in 1982. One has to understand now that prior to 1982 and prior to the coup, much of the writing that was done was more of what you say patronizing type of literature. People writing about the goodness of Topman, people writing about the goodness of this other person, that other person, and what have you. There wasn't a critical kind of intrusion of understanding the history of Liberia and the very important life of Liberia. So when the coup occurred, those who had been patronized, sadly, some of them died and some of them went into exile. As a result, uh, writing, critical writing became a little dormant. So there was the space between 1980 and 1982. And I think it got to a point where young people who wanted to kind of improve on their craft and what have you, they started clamoring a little. And that also went to the University of Liberia among the students. And there was a need for the Dr. Juamina, Charles Wingro Charles,
Wingrove.
Charles Juamina, yes. He became very instrumental, and Mrs. Althea Rumi Mark as well. They became very instrumental in uh, talking about organizing an association. So earlier there had been the Society of Liberian Authors, but that society had members that they saw writing as esoteric. They didn't want to allow other people in and what have you. You had to be an author. Where would a young person get money from to think about writing and getting the writing published and what have you? So with the post-coup days in the country and the need to set up an association that would appeal to the energy and the dreams and everything of other young people, they fell in love. And then, of course, that is how the Liberia Association of Writers was established. And so it became a democratic in the sense that anybody who had the flair for writing was brought into the picture. It wasn't something of you had to be an author before you get into the thing. It wasn't like that. So that is why it had a kind of boost get off the ground. What it is now, I think about a few years ago, the group celebrated its 35th anniversary. And from a distance, I also participated in that. Then about, I think it was was it last year? Yeah. No, the latter part of last year when they had an election and they put in a new corps of officers. That's where it is now. It's it's we talk about our place there. There isn't much support for things like that. How many government officials, how many people of means will help in the process? That is why probably part of our history we will not stop thanking the U.S. embassy out there. When I was there, especially during my days as an official of the association, the uh, the the embassy was very supportive of programs we had, seminars and workshops and all that kind of a thing. And Mrs. Mark was actually a strong woman in that process as well.
Yes. She still continues to write. Okay,
Yes,
okay,
yes.
Prof.
Mhm.
This is the man,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yes.
In Liberia.
Uh-huh.
And one of the quotes that you have in one of your books is
Mhm.
with Thoreau, right? And I want to
Yes.
quote that. And then I did read those books, you know?
Yes, I know. I can see that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I want you to tell me
Uh-huh.
this quote how it places you right before the war, and then we'll
Okay.
move on to your to the memory. So,
Okay. All
and
right.
it goes. I mean, you know it by heart, but this is
Mm.
Thoreau. I quote: "If a man does not keep pace with his companions,
Yes.
perhaps it is because he hears a different drummer.
Yes.
Let him step to the music which he hears,
Yes.
however measured or far
Uh,
away."
yes.
So,
Oh,
in your life right before the war,
uh-huh.
how measured was this drummer, and what was your life? Very briefly before we move on to the cool years, to
This
the war
this
years.
whole this quote has to do with the relevance of being your own person,
Yes.
being your own person, and sometimes you get to the point of talking and people, or you get to the point of wanting to say something or do something, and someone will tell you, well, the time has not come. Oh, forget about that one of you. That's not being me. Once I feel that something is important and decent, that's important. Okay. Once I think that something is important and decent, I will follow it through. You can pull me by my legs, you can pull me by my shirt. I am going to do it. That's what it is. And before the war and after the war, that's been my mantra. That's been my modus operandi.
So yeah, you are working, writing,
Yeah.
making a life,
Yes.
going by the beat of your own drum, and then the war comes,
Yes.
right? And most of your writings, they focus on the war years. Well, not most, but the ones that I read.
Yes.
Lessons from the war, through the war,
Yeah.
survival, things
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah.
So, April 1996, out of
Mhm.
that, you wrote the bulk challenge, right? The 10
Yes.
day
Yes.
ordeal,
Yes.
right? And I was struck by the fact that in this travelogue, you have the sorrow, the shame, the
Mhm.
shock, and the
Yes.
smile.
Yes.
So it's this gradual, it's this gradual evolution of feelings.
Yeah.
First there's sorrow, you're
Yeah.
leaving.
Yes.
Then tell me, one of the portions in the book that really struck me was when you always saying we are not refugees,
Yes.
and the Ivorian people were throwing bread at you.
Mhm. Yes.
I read that, I stopped. I
Mhm.
told you I read your book.
Mhm.
I
Yes.
stopped, and I said, so they were throwing bread,
Mhm.
and these people in this on this ship were
Yeah.
saying, no, 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 we're just passing through.
Yes.
We're just going. We're not refugees. Tell us a little bit about how this travelogue came to be,
Yeah.
and specifically about the shame, the
Mhm.
sorrow, the
Mhm.
shock with this incident that happened.
Mhm.
Take us a little bit through it, because I'm sure people who
Yeah.
were on the bulk challenge
Yeah.
or who were on other ships, they will understand.
Yeah.
But I yeah.
Mhm. The thing about it is that we 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 started out, and by the way, I'm just let me say something that there's the Shin Show, it's being compiled now into
The harvest of
one.
thorns.
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
The 10-day ordeal is part one, and
Yeah.
then you have part two, which has to do with the both the harvest of thorns and what have you.
Yeah.
We started out the Roosevelt 1996. Roosevelt Johnson World. They had just come from another of those several peace meetings, and in that meeting that I'm talking about now, where uh, Roosevelt Johnson went, uh, they gave almost every one of those warlords, some 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 space in the new government, some space in the new provisional government. But then one of the things that I understand Johnson had told Taylor was that he was going to turn over his munitions to him. But when they returned and Johnson thought he had clout too, he didn't want to listen to Taylor anymore. Taylor being what who he has often been, he felt slighted, and that's part of how the chase began. That included, of course, you're talking about Alhaji Krumah and all those people there. So they chased Johnson around. Earlier, Alhaji had gone on radio to say that the warlords were tired fighting. The people are tired fighting. No more fighting again. So when that fighting erupted, it was like throwing everything upside down. It threw everything upside down. So it was out of this bulk challenge, a cargo ship came around, and when the word came out that the cargo ship will be leaving, some of us who legitimately, people were looking at with evil eyes because of what we had been writing and we had been saying and what have you, it became very much important for us to leave, and that is how we decided to leave. We left not knowing that the ship was a leaking vessel. The hatches of the ship, before we knew it, were just filling up, and we knew that we were in trouble. So that was the state we were in. Okay, much of the shame and everything that we began to kind of race up and down the coast because nobody could take us. By the time 1996 came around, many Liberians had misbehaved, especially in Ghana and a few other places, that they didn't want Liberians landing on their shores anymore. So the shame was out there. And then at a point we arrived at La Côte d'Ivoire, at San Pedro, and the people started throwing bread at us. Now, let me say that I don't think they met that in a terrible way.
No. I didn't think that.
Yes. No. Others would think, it wasn't that. It was like they didn't want us to get down. They didn't want us to get down because if we got down, some people might have slipped away and all that. So they wanted to continue, all of us in the place there. That is how some of them began to, out of goodwill, they began to throw. In La Côte d'Ivoire, they have French-sized bread, those long pieces that you could throw at people and all that kind of thing. So they were throwing them over there, and some of those guys got, no. We are not zoo animals. We are no monkeys in this place. At some point, when I think about it today, I can just laugh. But anyway, and gradually, sense began to return. And even though La Côte d'Ivoire did not receive us, accept us, that is, we went all the way, and we were going. We even passed Ghana going to Togo. That was at night now. And then, of course, Ghana called us back. Mind you now, even at Ghana harbor there, we stayed there for several hours, and then they told us to go. They didn't want us. And then we were going all the way to Togo and then going to Nigeria. Then at midnight, they called the ship back. Ghana called the ship back, and that's how about 5 o'clock in the evening, because we stayed there from about 2 o'clock in the morning, clean down to the evening, and then they took us in.
How many of you were on the ship?
We were plus or minus 4,000. Yes, plus or minus 4,000. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the bulk challenge is the first half, and then you have the second half, which is the harvest of thorns. It's about the survivors, the bulk challenge.
Yes,
survivors, and in this book, at the end of these two books, you talk about the three pains.
Mm-hmm.
The first pain is that might makes right.
Yes.
The second pain is that it will happen again.
Yes.
That this thing will happen. And then the third one is that you learn what Dante said is about how how painful the life of an exile is,
Yeah.
that when you eat somebody else's bread, it will
Yeah.
taste like salt.
Yes.
And you will know how painful it is
Yeah.
to climb somebody
Mm.
else's stairs.
Yes.
So this depend, when I was reading it
Uh-huh.
and you say it does something to a man's soul
Yeah.
to depend on somebody else
Yeah.
for
Hmm.
survival.
It.
So yeah, the three pains, I read it and I felt that it was very emotion. It was a
Yeah.
very emotional part of the book. Yeah,
And
yeah.
and you are right on that because even on the ship, I was doing the jottings. I was doing my notes and all that kind of a thing. And some will laugh at, why would this man always writing? What is he doing over there? And that part you were talking about, I wrote that part one night, and I had come home exhausted. And I saw the life of, even though we were all on the refugee camp, but there were others whose fate was worse than some. So when I came, mind you, at that time I was in leadership on the camp there, chair of the refugee community of Sanzule, and I came home one night and it got to me. Certain things you wanted to do, you couldn't do because some person you had to say yes to this person or that person. And there was the raw pain. There was a raw pain that sent me to writing what you just read in there.
Yet, if you look at the other book you wrote, Wings
For the
for the
next day.
Next Day,
Yeah.
like I said to you, there's some optimism in this book.
Mhm.
Because as you're writing in a book, you say life continues, life
Yeah.
goes on. Back at
Yeah.
the camp, life
Yeah.
goes on. It's
Yes.
like a refrain
Yes.
throughout the book.
Hmm.
So it's almost like, and I've always, okay, so it's almost like this life goes on has taken wings
Hmm.
for
Yes.
the next day. It
Yes.
was like a survival chant.
Yes.
Life goes on, life goes
Yes.
on. Yeah, am
It,
I mistaken in the reading
it
or
is important. It is
okay?
important. It underlies what we're talking about there, and I've coined something called hope deficient. The moment you become hope deficient in life, you run to the path of suicide, or you run to some nasty thing that kills you, so that at least your soul or whatever might rest and what have you. So it is important for us to keep hope alive. In fact, the it is the flame that burns in the human order. It is the flame that burns in humanity. How many people have you not seen, even if they are hobbling, even if they are crawling, and you say, I mean, this thing, you don't think people should kill themselves? Say, well, what's I killing myself? I'm killing myself. No way. Oh. The same God who put me here, and you think I can go through this particular thing here, he better stay strong, because I am going to continue to live until I draw my last breath. So it is important. Hope is the protein. Hope is the protein of life, as far as energy, as far as strength is concerned. Hope is it. How many times some government is coming, some administration is coming in, and the past administration had been worse, and that past administration had people who might continue on to the next administration, and yet you hope that things are going to be better. How many times, even if someone is helpless, that person, when it comes New Year, I mean Christmas and New Year, that person is hoping that the next year, the next several months will be better than the first. So hope is the thing that keeps us alive. Otherwise, we can so easily die.
Yeah. And the other book that I especially like is The Grass Graces the Land.
Uh-huh.
Poetry, prof, poetry. And in
Yeah.
that book,
Uh-huh.
I think it's the forward when you talk
Yeah.
about a dog barks but at home.
Yes.
And I like that. It's like this comfort that you have at home. That even dogs, when they're home, they bark.
Yes.
But the precariousness of your position at the time
Yes.
that that yes, you don't know where you are because this is not home.
This is not home.
This is not home. You
Again,
know.
that's what the thing about space and all that. This is not home. This is not home, and therefore you've got to be very careful. Let someone mistake your barking for maybe being happiness, and the thing about it is, what is he happy for? What is she happy for? And something terrible might happen to you in the process.
And in the Grass Graces the Land, I like the way you format the poems,
Yes,
because the first one is longing,
yes,
you know, which is obviously the condition of the
mhm,
of the refugee or the
yeah,
exile
yeah,
person, you know, is that longing for
mhm,
home.
mhm,
And then you go on to bonding. Okay, I'm not there anymore, I might as well make life here,
yeah,
you know. So there's this bonding, and
yeah,
then there's gratitude.
yeah,
You know, at least I'm alive, at least I'm here. And then it comes spiritual haunting,
yeah,
love, ecstasy, and then a mind to heal,
yeah.
you know. And that word again, life goes on, you know,
Mhm.
you're healing.
Hope,
Yeah,
yeah,
hope.
hope,
so
yeah, and
so
then
so
healing.
so how did you go about putting these pieces in these different
Mm.
columns,
Yes.
or headings? Yeah.
Yeah, well, the thing about it is, every work has its own uh, beginning. It has its middle, and it has its end. And every piece of work is almost like talking about a human being by itself. It's like I always tell students that every work has its own personality. Every poem has its own personality and what have you, and that is the structure one has to follow then in terms of writing what he or she has to write. So that's how I was able to kind of provide the symmetry that you have that you're talking about there. There's when you're doing all things, those things, psychology is at work, philosophy is at work, and all those things, they form the backbone of whatever you're doing.
Yeah, there's a I don't know if it's in this book. There's a poem that you wrote. What is it called? The relief workers prayer. You know, and you said I made notes, Prof.
That really works.
You
Yes,
said I pray not for war,
yes,
but if war is chance for bread and meat,
yes.
you know. So if the war is bringing the food, then let it
Well,
come, because
that's the sad cruelty about it, though.
yeah.
And I part of what led to that poem was that when we got in Ghana, eh, when we got in Ghana, those people who at first were like mean to us and what have you, when they knew about, well, the UN money was going to flow in and all that kind of a thing, their whole attitude changed, and they were going around. All of a sudden, they were our kings. Now they were our queens. So that is part of course, it wasn't only the Ghana experience that made me write that poem. I've I've listened all over the world. I've read all over the world what things are, especially with refugees and what have you. And sometimes it gets to the point, let's face it, that these people who are the caretakers of the refugee, they enjoy the real delicious part of whatever goes on in that place there. They may
So that's
deny
the
that.
prayer. Let
Yes,
war
yes,
come.
yes,
You
yes,
know,
yes.
yeah.
They don't say it, but actually, if and you talk about Liberia as well, where those people who were working with UN branches here and there, you know what they did. All right, they were sitting pretty. They were sitting pretty, and you can blame them, of course, because they didn't force you to go to war. But of course, once the war came and they had to do this and do that, they benefited from that.
Also in this book, I felt that the grass graces the land. I felt that uh, it was more spiritual.
Mhm.
You had a poem about Job,
Yeah,
how he was stoic, he never
yeah,
wept.
yeah,
You had
yes,
a poem about Jonah.
yeah,
You had a poem about the nail, that
yeah,
nail.
yeah.
You know, so I was like, oh, Prof is getting to be really religious.
Delicious or what have you. Uh, I think at some point, Miss Jackie, I think at some point, every human person is religious. It may not be Christianity, it may not be Islam, what have you. Every human being is religious because actually, religion is a communication with life. Religion is a communication with life. Every time you can talk about, well, by the time something close to end time comes in, hey God, you will let this thing happen to me. God, I beg you, don't let this thing happen to me, and what have you. It is at that moment, it is at that very crucial moment that we see not God within the context of Christianity, as I said, Islam, or what have you, but we see God as being someone in the moment of terror we can kind of interact with in our own way. So for me, yes, I'm religious, but I don't wear religion on my sleeves. That's the thing about it. Even though I'm a Christian, I'm a Methodist and what have you, but I don't break my head over those things. I don't break my head over things. I have a way of communicating with my God, and that's what I'm interested in.
Let's look at some of the comments, and we'll come back to specifically nuggets of the African novel,
Okay.
and then we'll talk about translating or transmitting these characteristics in your writings to the Liberian society.
Okay.
Yeah. As we can see, Mrs. Margaret Mapu Dyson is watching. Hi, Margaret. Franklin Weller, he's watching one of his favorite professor of all ages.
Yes.
Eugenia Jazz said, good evening, Prof. and Miss Jackie. Good evening,
Yeah,
Eugenia. Good evening.
How you doing?
Manuel Jackson is watching from
Yeah.
Boston.
Oh, yes.
Susan Lamadine is watching from Sydney, Australia. Oh, it must be
Wow.
night there or
How
day.
about that? Woo.
Emmanuel Jackson says, so true. My foundation is the Catholic Elementary on
Yes.
Snapper Hill in the 1960s. Some of our
Yes.
teachers were Sister Rose Gabriel.
Yes.
I remember her.
Yes.
60s? No, that woman used to beat us. Teacher Andrew, Father Tipo, Sister Jonathan. K1 was Old Lady Crawford School, also on the Snapper Hill Belt in the 1960s. So we're going down memory lane.
Yes, yes.
Amos Archie say, hey, Prof, I'm watching you from Harper,
Upper
Maryland.
Maryland. Oh, my
Amos,
God.
I'm going to come to Harper. I'm going to look for you. So
Yes,
be
yes.
ready. Keep in
Stand tall.
touch. Isa Kofa said, tag the number. Is there any creative writing in Liberia? Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes, of course. Yes.
Yeah. Dr. Michael Wanna said, great discussion. I'm always gaining wisdom from you, Prof.
Oh, I think it's mutual. I gain wisdom from you too, Mike. Yes.
Patrick Kekula said, I was on that ship, Doc.
Oh, were you?
He was on that ship.
We were many there, though. We were many there. Yes.
Yeah. Our first stop was at San Pedro. Yeah, that's what.
San Pedro. Yes, that's right.
I'm glad everything is okay, Patrick.
Yes.
Yeah, San Pedro. Yeah. He's just
Uh-huh.
correcting the spelling. Yeah. Blamoto said, Prof. Nagbe, you look great.
Oh my God, Blamo. Oh yes, I remember Blamo. How are you?
Probably have to put your email so people can get in touch with you on this thing. Patrick said, what is the book called? Oh, there are so many books. That book is called the Book Challenge.
Yeah, Book Challenge,
Fright and Flight.
Yes.
Yeah. We'll put the poster up again. And we'll put the poster up again. I'm drinking in all the good stuff. Oh, you study different things. What did you try to satisfy? Yeah, Prof, you're multidisciplinary.
Yeah, no. What I try to satisfy, just curiosity. Just curiosity. I like I told you at that early level, knowledge meant so much to me. The thing about it is that you cannot capture all knowledge and put it in one bowl. That's what it is. But I have taken much interest in that by virtue of what the African teachers and as well as the American teachers, they taught me in terms of taking interest in language. I mean, taking interest in knowledge and skills.
And Anastasia is watching. Hi, Anastasia.
Hi, Anastasia. How are you? Thank you.
Nigerian Associate Writer still exists, Prof? Does it still exist?
Yes.
Okay.
It does.
Okay. Can you tell? Maybe do you want to? How can they get in contact with Law?
I'm sure Christine is familiar with one James Dwalu.
Okay.
DWALU, one of
Okay.
the past presidents. He's been very active in there, and I think he will be a good source reference. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Prof. So we come down to actually let's put the book up again so people can see the book, because I think we did it in the beginning.
Mhm.
Um, there's some at midnight.
Mhm.
Our best bets with our best with the rest, sharing our best with the rest. The road
Yes.
to Romeo,
Yeah.
leg them to the bone,
Yeah.
tugging whispers,
Yes.
a scream in the storm. Today
Yeah.
I pour libation.
Yeah.
I can't see the other one, but I know is
Clipping the
the
claws and
okay. Born of the village sun, just like yesterday. A short biography of Sasstown,
yeah.
Sasstown of the
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
1960s,
Yeah.
in the shadow of words and
Mm.
nuggets of the African novel.
Yeah.
And nuggets of the African novel is the one I mean that I specifically, that's my go-to, because what you've done is that you've taken a lot of the
Mm.
Liberian novels,
Yes.
you've condensed them,
Mm.
summarized them,
Yes.
you've listed the themes of
Yeah.
these books,
Mhm.
and then you've also taken African novels like The
Mhm.
Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet
Yeah.
Born,
Yeah.
The
Mhm.
River Between, My
Yeah.
Boy,
Yeah.
you
Things
know,
fall
and you
apart. Yeah.
yeah, and you've listed the themes
Yeah.
as well. So
Yeah.
if somebody is if you're going to have a discussion about The River Between and you don't have
Mm.
time to read a book,
Yeah.
grab nuggets of the African novel,
Yeah.
you know, and they're just little nuggets, and then you can read quickly,
Yeah.
and you're able to summarize
Yeah.
and know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think so in this nuggets of the African novel, Prof, you talk about the mission of the
Mhm.
African novel, and
Yeah.
it's something we've discussed
Yeah.
before. But you quote Achebe, and I want to read what you quoted
Yeah.
so you can discuss it with us.
Yeah.
So, and I quote: "In the end, I began to understand there is such thing as absolute power
Yeah.
over narrative.
Yes.
Those who secure this privilege for themselves can arrange stories about others
Yeah.
pretty much where and as they like.
Yes.
Just as in corruption totalitarian regimes, those who exercise power over others can do anything." End
Yes.
of quote. So explain to us this power that the writer have over a narrative.
And again, that's why, Miss Jackie, you know, we always talk about the fact that history and literature are twin.
Yes.
History. The thing about it is that what you identify in that quote is the question of who owns the power to a narrative, who owns the power to a history. If you have someone other than yourself who is telling your story, who is giving your history, then it is problematic because people will never easily know your pain. People will never easily know your anxiety, your fears, and everything. Just to digress a little, there's this book I'm reading. I'm sure we know about it, which is about the rubber empire in Liberia by Greg Mittman. If I After reading that book, I can safely say that that is encyclopedic in terms of what information he has from the very birth of Liberia to what I can say continues to this day. He looks at multiple voices building up the Liberian history, the Liberian society. And that is what you see, I would say, in the Achebe statement about the ownership of the voice to a kind of narrate a particular thing. The Europeans, what did they do? They had the power to narrate, and therefore they told how Africans were monkeys, Africans were animals, and what have you. Even as far back as they said that, doesn't that continue? In some quarters, it continues, except those who have the capacity to have a kind of read more and therefore can articulate different views. But that is what, to a large extent, that is what it has been, where you have the power of narrative being not with the African, but, or I should say, not with the vulnerable, but those who have power over the vulnerable.
Yeah, that's what we always say on this show, that this is a journey, and we want you to follow us, join us on this journey. But it's also like a treasure that we're seeking. We're learning as we go on, and we always say, know your own history, do your own research.
Yes.
Nobody owns the because
Yes.
Foucault said, if the person who owns the archive
Mhm.
of memory, I mean of history, owns
Yeah.
memory. They
Yes.
tell you what happened, and you say, oh
Yes.
yeah, it must have happened
Yes.
that way.
Yes.
And
They
no
are
one
right.
person has
Mhm.
that power
Yes.
to own the
Yes.
archive of of,
Mhm.
of, of history.
Yes.
you know yeah, so moving along, Puff, we're coming now to the great philosophical issues of the day. My barber says that everyone must come out of his exile in his own way.
Yeah.
So, going through what you went through, have you come out of your exile in your
Mhm.
own way,
Mhm.
and what were the strategies you used so that if somebody else is trying to make it through, that they can say, okay, maybe I should try this? What are the strategies?
Well, the first thing is, and that might surprise you, don't be so serious about yourself in life so much that you forget other people. The many days, in fact, if you go through one of the things out there where I on the ship, something happened and I was trying to balance myself and I fell on my back and it inflicted a sore there. And instead of hurting, I started laughing at myself. It was like, yeah, it get you. And and you were running away. Something has to pay the debt. There has to be so many ways of creating humor in life. If you don't create humor in life, my dear, there are so many things that will get to you so much that you want to kind of forget about living. But yet, living you must, because God has a time for you. And if the time is not yet come, there's nothing you can do. If you want to hasten it, fine. But you have to keep in mind that you were just 2 years old or 3 years old. But once you got to 10 years old and what have you, you are not someone who belongs to yourself anymore. Your life is not only and only your life. It is your life for so many people. Even the very laughter, even the very smile, even the very handshake or a hug, that is capable of making other people feel good. So there are so many reasons why you must fight to live. And fighting to live, you must also keep in mind that you do not need to take yourself so seriously more than it is worth. So that is what I've tried to do. And every time I am working, every time I'm walking, every time I'm driving, I'm saying, I have a purpose on earth. I have a purpose in this world. I don't know it. I might think I know it. I don't know it. God and only God knows it. And until the moment comes when I'm in a casket, I know I will continue to live. So those two things have kept me on, creating humor and making sure I keep reminding myself that I have a purpose on earth.
As it says in your poem, the wheel life is,
Yes,
right? Life is
yes,
a wheel. Yeah.
yes. That's what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. So you talk about humanity in one of the books, and you say humanity, and I'm quoting you now,
Yes.
humanity needs the constant ring of an alarm clock. Explain that to us.
Again, you remember I just gave you two things that have kept me going. The idea that you have to create humor, and the other idea is that you get to some point in your life and your life is not for you and only you. It is not that you are giving people thousands of dollars and what have you, but the idea you are around, it kind of inspires hope in other people. So that ring is part of that echo is what I'm talking about in that piece there.
So again, in your book, you talk about a profile of the teeny thousands, right? I read the book properly.
I
and
see you.
you talked about the young people. There's in one of the books, there's a 19-year-old and
Mhm.
and a 17-year-old, I think,
Yeah. Yeah.
who yeah, and
The
they
wings of the next day. Yes. Uh-huh.
yeah, the wings of the
Wings of
next
the
day,
next day.
yeah. And in fact, in that book, Pi Edward says
Yeah.
to Bana,
Yeah.
education holds no hope for you. I
Aha.
have notes, prof. I took notes. He said
Yeah.
education has no hope for you.
Yes.
Now, when I was putting together the questions for
Yeah.
you, I reached out to a young lady and I
Yeah.
said, what would you like to know from Prof Nangbe? So now we're moving towards lessons,
Yes.
right? Lessons from your life. So
Mhm.
now our young people, they're losing hope in education.
Yeah.
It's no longer what we
Mhm.
used to see, that
Ye-
education for us was the way up the ladder,
Yes.
right? For
Yeah.
them now, to stay in school is too long.
Yes.
You can do other things to get
Yes.
a better life.
And not,
So what would you say
uh-huh.
to the young people in
Yeah.
Liberia, or
Mhm.
not even in Liberia, the young people who feel like,
Yeah.
I want to live a good life,
Yeah.
and life is short. I went
Yeah.
through a war, I
Yeah.
didn't die. Who
Mhm.
knows when I would die?
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
Okay. Before I come to that, Pi Edwards' aunt, uh, Pi Edwards' aunt was a very educated woman,
Yeah,
and yet she was one of those abetting the war.
yeah,
Yes, she
yes.
was living off the war and what have you. And that earlier on, Pi had been respecting her because of the level of education she had attained, and people respecting her for that. But when the war came and she made a 360-degree turnaround, instead of speaking for people, instead of fighting for people, she began to fight for herself. And that got to Pai so badly that he didn't want to have anything to do with education.
Hmm.
And so, what we will say is probably what you will say when things are not going right from the point of view of religion. There are people who talk about religion, and yet when things come about to kind of demonstrate whatever it is not there anymore. So you see them and you're saying, well, what will I do with religion anymore? Yet there has to be an inner virtue, an intrinsic value has to be within you, that is, so that even if things are falling apart here and there, you will keep your focus. So I'll tell them that it is important to find, of course, probably it is hard, but they should be able to find one or two people who others are talking about are very focused, and those are the people they should learn to bond with. They must find positive bonding. It is very much important. Yeah, sometimes we talk about enjoyment, and we say that life is too long or life is too short, therefore you are going to have a way of cutting here and cutting there to get wherever you want to get. But it is very much important. It is important to understand that I know no human being is perfect. The reality is that there are some people that are fairly perfect within the context of this whole miasma of destruction and what have you. So they should be able. That is why sometimes reading and watching very educational and educative movies are very much important. All I'm saying is that they should try as much as possible to pull little things together, have kind conversation, have productive conversations, and what have you. Those things coming together, they should never easily lose hope that so many people are doing this and therefore we are going to do that. No, sometimes it doesn't. It is not everyone who goes to moonlight dance and sees the moon up. Sometimes people say, "Oh, the moon is shining. The moon is shining." By the time you get to the dancing center, the moon is out. Sometimes you have a huge cloud covering the moon, and therefore you don't get it. So don't leave anything to chance. Do not leave anything to chance. Try as much as possible to organize your life in such a way that people should be able to do whatever it is possible.
Henry Last says, I've concluded that I would never allow my religion
Mhm.
to cause a split between my fellow man, woman, and myself, especially
Yes,
with fellow Africans.
yes.
Yes,
It is
that's
it,
good.
it is very much important.
Christine Lardner wants you to talk about sharing our best with the rest.
Okay. It is all about if you've achieved whatever in your little corner you have achieved, you must see it as a public good, and therefore you must be able to share it with other people. It doesn't necessarily have to be money, but if you can share money, why not? The best thing is that if you have knowledge, if you think that you have experiences that people should have so that they will model life in a better way, try as much as possible to share with them. I've one of the things I say in that book is that I say in that little book is that, you know, if you know how to read very well and all that, you go to a program where a child is haltingly reading, reading like somebody falling off the cliff and other kind, and every other person is laughing. Don't laugh. If you laugh, it is like you are laughing at yourself. What have you done? What have you been able to do to make sure that you provide some sort of assurances and provide some resources in whatever form to make that person come alive and do things a better way? Can we, for instance, be able in our community to create sessions where students learn how to read, where students learn how to interpret things and what have you? So there are so many ways in which we can be of help. So if we've attained our best, we must be able to share that best with our rest.
So Franklin Ladder wants to know, how has your writings helped to de-traumatize,
Mhm.
de-traumatize you, especially in the midst of what we Liberians have undergone during the civil upheaval?
Well, um, some of these things we try as much as possible to spread them out there, and uh, like we are talking about them here. I know when the first part of my work, Buck Challenge, came out, because it was just in one slim volume. When it came out, it was as if I had written for the entire passenger crew out there. It Everywhere I went, or most places I went, someone would say, that's my story you were telling. You know, the thing we went through, yes, it was important that somebody had to tell it so that other people will understand and either treat us well or something of that sort. So there are so many ways. That's a very important question as well. So in many ways, the writing has been able to tell people's story. And once that's being able to tell people's story, uh, it's been able to achieve something, because it is more of an affirmation. When you write something, it's more of an affirmation. And if someone says yes, I remember in the mid '80s, I was writing these articles uh, almost every week, and I will get somewhere things that people will not want to tell people. They came out in the articles, and it was always, "My man, you did it. My man, you did it. Thank you. You did this, you did that." So all those things are some sort of affirmations. And what then happens in the process is that to agree that someone is affirming your story is some sort of de-traumatization. That's what I think about it myself.
The books that you write, Prof, the
Mhm.
books that you write,
Yes.
you affirm the human spirit. You talk
Yes.
about healing. You talk
Mhm.
about life going on. You
Yes.
know, but one thing that we tend to forget is that the young people in
Mhm.
Liberia
Yeah.
never had the chance to have the life we had.
Yes.
More and more I'm learning that, when I'm trying to say, oh, this happened, somebody will say, but I don't remember that.
Yeah.
So this life
Mhm.
that we remembered,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Our memories are not their memories,
Yes.
right? Most of them, they grew up during the war years,
Yes.
right? And most of them looking for role models
Mhm.
The role models themselves, they are either tired, they are either tinted, or they are either dead.
Yes.
So there's this vacuum of leadership, of moral leaders.
Yes.
And I would not say it's only Liberian youth, because
Yes.
this is the norm around the world.
Yes.
It's not just Liberia.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm sure there were things that were happening when we were there, but at least there was no social media. What
Yes.
happened to us was that we had other alternatives.
Yes.
We went to the library.
Yes.
Sometimes we went to Relda Cinema.
Yes.
We had Bible studies.
Hmm.
We had things that we could do.
Yes.
That if we wanted to maybe fall into despair,
Yes.
we
Some
had
people from
support
there.
systems
Hmm.
that are absent for our young people.
Yeah.
Like, for example, you're talking about your books.
Hmm.
But a young person in Liberia cannot just go out and say, let me buy
Yeah.
the grass grazes the land.
Yes.
I can just buy that.
Yeah.
So the enabling environment is not there. And and just to be blunt,
Yes.
and we saw this past week that, yeah, we are talking about Liberian literature, we're
Hmm.
talking about Liberian artists. Yeah,
Yes.
you've written so many books,
Hmm.
and a book about a woman, just I'm not saying a book, it may be 2 pages,
Hmm.
wh- took the book up over
Yeah.
5,000 copies.
Hmm.
Is this titillization
Hmm.
of everything that's lewd, and
Yes.
that I wouldn't even say sex so much as it feeds into the
Yeah.
the 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 the
The
the,
moral decadence.
the insatiability
It is.
of people.
Hmm.
So I'm not here to preach. What I'm saying is that, how can a young person cope with a society?
Hmm.
And this is not just a Liberian
Yeah.
society.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's every society. You
Hmm.
go, you're watching a documentary,
Hmm.
and you
Hmm.
turn to maybe one of these tabloid show, you have 5,000 viewers.
Yes.
So with all of these things, Prof, how would a young person, in the absence of
Hmm.
this, what would bring a young person to this moral, or to develop this
Yeah.
moral core that you were talking about?
I, to tell you the truth, is a very difficult question. It is important, but it's a very difficult question. Um, like I said earlier, it's what environment can we create? I guess that's the question. What environment can we create uh, with all these multifaceted types of uh, media outlets bombarding them, and all that? Uh, I think part of what we are doing, uh, part of what we are doing, is very much important in terms of creating forums for critical review of certain pieces of literature and what have you. And we should also be able to create uh, other aspects of the forum to make sure that what, in fact, that brings me into a question of the importance for parents to be around when certain movies are being shown. In that way, they, the good ones, the good parents, will be able to direct or help direct the thinking of the children towards what they are seeing, the reality and the fantasy. So we have, that is also part of what I said about, uh, giving our best to the rest. We who think have achieved to a certain level must be able to lead the way in terms of creating talk sessions, in terms of writing books, in terms of writing articles, in terms of just always trying as much as possible to bring some of the young people together all the time. We should not a kind of believe that, well, when this person is 19, therefore this person is 18, therefore he or she understands the world. We must not tire. we must not tire in terms of helping these young people develop. The adolescent period is often a very, very delicate period. So many things can happen. So if we can always create programs, if we can always create the centers for these people to understand what is good about life, without, of course, imposing on them, just explaining to them, we should be able to get somewhere. So you can see that this is a difficult question, but all we have to do is find what needs to be learned, find what needs to be known, and then create the center, create the forums wherein these things can be learned. Over time, sometimes it is frustrating. I remember one of my colleagues in college said something like, sometimes you think that the young people are not learning. Sometimes you think they are not grabbing what we are giving them. But if it is just one person who understands what you are doing, you can be happy because that person has a way of uh, creating a snowball effect so that whatever they've learned and understood thoroughly, they can so easily pass it on to other people. Learning good things, as you know very well, learning good things is never an easy thing to do, but we have to keep at it and pat people on the back when they've made even slow progress.
Thanks, Prof. Could you read for us the signature poem of the grass graces the land?
Yes, okay. The grass graces the land. The grass graces the land, swallowing spent shells, battered bottles, shredded metal sheets, and bent, twisted pipes. The grass graces the land, swallowing bones and skulls of the dead deserted, boiling dreams spilled, evaporating in the steamy sun. The grass graces the land, and with hefty appetite, now it crawls up walls, cracked, the perfect twin of spiders' webs. The grass graces the land. We shall be watching, fenced out, standing on asphalt streets, cracked like backs of turtles. Oh, my land, oh, my home, would to God, snapping fingers, I'd arrive to shoo away off the grass. The
Thank you,
grass
Prof.
graces the land,
Yeah,
yes.
I like that. I like that. Now, in your book, at the end of it, you say, "Now let us now go out to heal."
Yeah,
Right? And I especially like that because one of the poems you have about "Let us go out to heal" is the one for was written July 27, 2016,
yeah,
Independence Day.
uh-huh,
And the last four lines, I don't know if you have it, but if I may,
yeah,
it says, and I quote, "Beautiful people
mhm,
of God's gracious earth,
yes,
my battery further charged. Come along now. Let's go out and help heal the world."
yeah.
I really like that, Prof.
Oh,
You
thank you.
know, and I think that people forget that, like Frank Weller said, words are therapeutic.
Mhm,
Words heal.
yeah,
And I really like this about healing the land. You know, I would like you to tell us a little bit about when you were writing this poem, and then I will bring it into the celebrations that is about to happen.
yeah. Uh, you, if you notice, it's 27,
Yeah, yeah, the
and
27th, sorry, yes.
and that's my birthday.
Hey, yes, Prof.
And so every time my birthday is coming, I forget about myself and I'm thinking about Liberia and I'm thinking about actually the world. You know, what little thing or what little things can we do? Sometimes it is not actually what we do physically, but what we do verbally. How do we seek to bring healing to people's way of thinking? How do we do it in terms of making someone feel important? This is not to kind of be superlative in terms of say, oh, you are great, you are king. No, the little things you say. Sometimes you are, I'm sure it doesn't happen to me and only me. You are somewhere and you're going. One time, a student sat on uh, one of the steps in my place there, and this student, you would think that the whole world had come down upon that child. And I was passing. It's like nobody was looking at her and what have you. And then I squatted a little, and I said, "Can you smile for me, please?" And I guess it took her off. It was like this older man passing by. Well, what does he want with me? What does he know about me and what have you? But at the moment I said that, the eyes lit up, and she smiled. I I I will never know what she felt when she left from there and what have you, but from knowing a bit about human nature, I think it was like, wow, someone noticed me. Wow, someone thought I was and said something to me. How many times can we not replicate that? That alone, it may not put food in that person's plate, but the mind, this mind, if we lose it, actually we lose ourselves. And therefore, anything we can do to always heal the mind in a simple way can have a multiplying effect. Who knows whether at some point she didn't go somewhere and say that to another person too. So these are the little things here and there we can do. Short of the long is that it is not possible to have all the wealth in this world before we can make people happy. But at some point we can do that and it can have a significant effect.
Anastasia says there are also, Prof, there are also those who share videos of our children struggling to sing the national anthem and
Uh-huh.
teachers struggling to teach.
Yes,
Indeed, if we're good, we must give our best to the rest.
yes,
Yes.
yes, yes, Miss Simmons. That's very much important. Yes.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
little things. I wanted to help, but I don't know whether $1 can do itself. Give the $1. Give the $1. I wanted to give you something, but I don't know whether 50 cents can do it. Give that person 50, whatever he or she does with that $50, 50 cents or 25 cents, that's the person's business. But be able to find a source of be a source of healing.
Okay, Prof. So let's say there's a young writer in Maryland,
Mm,
right, in Harper, and they don't know where to start.
mm.
What advice would you give an emerging writer or somebody who wants to write but is unsure? What kind of advice would you give them?
Start by reading. Start by reading. There is magic in reading.
Yes.
The words, the sentences, and what have you. Even as you're reading and something comes in there and you cannot understand it, go to someone who has more experience. It is to be able to be a good dancer, you must watch people dancing. It's very much important. How those people, crisscross their legs and what have you. At some point in time, you get into your little corner, you will begin to practice that. So my thing is start reading, and as you read one or two books or what have you, or read one or two articles over time, you should maybe looking at the title of the piece or looking at the certain words in the book, you will begin to do your practice, and that will have an important effect. And then, of course, when you get to that point, you can form little groups. And in forming little groups, you people can interact and what have you, and something very blooming will pop up.
Yeah, I think so. I think that there needs to be an enabling environment
Yes,
for artists, not
that's the
just,
phrase. That's the
yeah, for
phrase. Yes.
artists, an enabling
Hmm.
environment. Because
Yes.
when we were growing up,
Hmm.
we had libraries and we had
Yes.
things. Yeah.
Hmm. Yes.
Yeah. So,
Even in my little place, we had very uh, insightful reading rooms. And whenever we got there to do our little assignments here and there, we didn't know that these people were building something in us. And that is what has sustained some of us to this point.
so, Prof, as we are wrapping up, and we were talking about healing and the therapeutic nature
Yeah.
of words
Yes.
and books, um, I will ask you to close on this question. Do you think our society has healed? And if not, what will it take for them to be on the road to healing?
Healing, my dear friend, healing is a frustrating process. Healing is a frustrating process. It has so many bends. It's a labyrinth. Uh, so one cannot get at a point and say healing is done. It has to continue as a never ending process. And what people have got to know is to be able to always find those parts. And I'm not saying that it's an easy thing to do, but people have to find those spots that need tweaking, that need massaging, that need everything of a pep talk to keep those who might be dragging their feet moving again. So, one, healing is not a small process, it's a difficult one, but it is the thing that we have to do to sustain hope. And in sustaining the hope, we will be able to bring a lot of people along. It doesn't augur well when someone says, yeah, yeah, you'll do it because other, that sort of a thing. Fanning the flames in the end will not help anybody. So the best thing we have to do is every time there are rough spots, we should be able to throw some weight by ensuring that we massage the area, we keep going and making things beautiful. Sometimes that is all we can do. But to say, well, man, leave people, yeah, they think the people will never learn. You leave people, let them enjoy. No, it's let me just give one little thing that I one of the things I enjoy about my life is that I straddle rural life and city life. Yeah, live in rural Liberia, and then so nothing strange about those sessions of life mean much to me again in terms of surprises. In a village, people say someone who is carrying a bag of rotten meat through a village must not be weary talking. Someone who carries a bag of rotten meat through a village must not be weary in talking. In other words, as you are passing through the village, flies are all over the bag and what have you. Flies are all over your face and other kind of thing. Somebody said, but wait now, what kind of thing you get in your bag so that smelling and making flies over? The person will say, hey, my people, that lay dry, that lay day dear I found that what I carrying so we drink some soup. After 2 or 3, well, what kind of ratting mean? Hey, my people, you see what I'm talking about. So you
Yes.
never get tired explaining. That is what it means, especially in a society we find ourselves where sometimes the bad outweighs the good. But whatever it is, we must try as much as possible to continue to find ways in which we can make things right. It is never easy, as I said, But that is the thing that inspires hope, and therefore we who find ourselves or we who think that we are good, we must be able to inspire that goodness in other people.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. I enjoy reading some of the books, the
Thank
ones
you.
that you sent me.
Yeah.
There were a lot, but as you can see, I did get through some of them.
Yeah, you did. You did.
Yes.
Kudos to you. You did very
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
With
Thank you
all
so
your own,
much.
with all your own basic schedule, you were able to put in time and what have you.
Yeah. And
The other thing is that, my people, this young lady that is sitting opposite me, I just have to say this one thing. Learning is like a spirit. Sometimes it possesses you at an early stage. Sometimes it possesses you or strengthens in you at a middle point. Jackie, today when I see her, I am so proud. Starting, many of them thought that I was very difficult, mean master, and what have you. But I think this young lady has come into her own space. I think this young lady has come into her own world. Sometimes when I see her articulating things and what have you, I get goosebumps because she's come to a point where I know many of the quarreling and all that kind of thing have paid off. And I just want in this public space to thank God for her and thank her father for her and thank
my
everyone
mom,
to a point where, yeah, okay, sorry, the mom as well and the grand. She and
my great
I,
grandmother.
she and I are really grandma's babies. She often quotes her grandmother, and I think I love my grandmother too, just as she did her grandmother. So thank you for what you are doing, and every time you do me proud as you work your way through.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. And kudos to our ancestors.
Yeah,
They've made us what we are.
yeah,
And I know you remember at Anastasia and Frank, they're here.
yeah.
I was like the number one quiet. I couldn't speak,
Yes, yes.
because I was brought up to I was told
Be submissive.
be submissive, no makeup, no earrings, no nothing. So I hardly spoke when I was at the university. But
Yeah,
now I found my voice.
yeah. I found
But
her voice. She found her voice.
yeah, but
Yes,
but I agree with you, and I agree with a lot of people on this broadcast that we need to do something for our young
yeah,
people. We need to this enabling environment
yeah,
has to be a culture
yeah,
of reading,
yeah.
a culture of discussion,
Yeah,
a
discussion.
culture,
Yes,
yeah, a culture of investigation, and a
yes,
culture of questioning
yes.
things that people tell you, and
Hmm.
not in a rude way, but
Yes.
to say, is this true?
Hmm.
Let me find out
Yeah,
myself.
yeah,
How can I go and find out? I want to know. you know uh, uh, um I don't know if it was Thoreau. He said, know thyself.
yeah,
Know
yeah, yeah.
thyself.
Something
And
like
I
that.
think we always say that, what is your core?
Yeah, what is your
If
core?
you know yourself,
Hmm.
and if they say, who are you,
Yeah.
you're able to stand and say, I am this
Yes.
person. you know and we said that one time when we said, what does it mean to be a Liberian?
Yeah.
And people were laughing.
Hmm.
But here's Ghana. Ghana
Yeah.
just did a contest
Yes.
on that, an essay contest on what it
Yes.
means to be a Ghanaian.
Yes.
And one of the things that saddens me is that this bicentennial, they can use these things.
Yes.
They should be having a contest
Yeah.
within the schools to
Yeah.
say, what does it mean when I
Yeah.
say I'm a Liberian?
Yes.
A poetry contest. Let
Yes.
people write
Yes.
poetry about 200 years.
Yes.
You must make people want to take ownership of that
Yes.
process. Don't tell them, oh, we're going to have the bicentennial
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so, but to
Mhm.
say, this is how you can
Yeah.
involve yourself. And
Yes.
that's some of the enabling environment for
Yeah.
our young people. Our
Yes.
young people have to find how to
Hmm.
feel that they are part of the
Have it.
process,
Yes.
of
Inclusivity.
building a
Yes. Mhm.
country. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much, Prof. I'm honored that
Yes.
but I know that you gave me a very difficult time in LU, but I've learned so much. And you
Uh,
see, Yvonne Adigibi agree with me.
That was difficult.
Yvonne
Okay.
said you were difficult, bro. You were very difficult.
And you're bluffing with it now. Even the Yvonne over there, and she bluffing. Every time I see her on the play, I say, "Look at her there." Oh. They
Yeah,
feel
and
forgetting
Michael,
about.
Dr. Wana said he has some of your books, but you
Uh-huh.
stopped sending them to him since it's been a long time since we met face to face. Maybe at next year's Liberian Studies
Yeah,
Association.
because you alone want to eat your pan butter, your wife can cook. That's why.
Let's get to the bone. One of our books.
Oh my, thank you.
I think is this one. Lick them to the bone.
Yeah, lick them to the bone.
Yeah. But Prof, we want to say thank you to you for just this, I mean just this delightful conversation, and um we know that you're going to keep writing.
Yeah.
We kept talking about literature. We didn't even talk about your paintings. Because you do paint. Every time we go on Facebook, there's a
There's
painting,
something painting.
and I say,
Yeah,
I Prof painting again.
yeah.
But it just says, like the saying, say, man gives birth to himself.
Yes.
And so I mean, look at me, Prof. When I was small, I was afraid of animals, and now it's like I can't imagine living with all my cats.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
people,
Every
man gives
time.
birth to himself in
Yeah.
in various ways. You
Yes.
evolve. Yeah. So we want to say thank you, Prof. We want to
Thank
say
you
thank
too.
you. We will
Thank you so much.
we will definitely continue. Christy wants to know if
Yes.
you're still a member.
Yes. In fact, and I told that they had the anniversary, and I was one of those who supported the cost and what have you. And
Yeah.
I think I'm one of the board members as well.
So, Prof, how can they get your books? I mean, besides Amazon, can they
Well,
write to you? Can they write to Focus on Liberia?
yes. The thing about it, that's what it is. Yes, focus on what have you. Yes.
Yeah. So, those of you who are buying the latest book, please, when you're buying those books, please try and get Prof book
Our latest book,
and,
right?
and read it too. We want to thank you. We want to
Yeah.
thank you for
Thank
joining
you so
us this
much.
wintry.
Yes.
I mean, I'm snowed in, Prof.
Is that right? Sorry,
Yeah. I mean,
because when you told me, I thought it was going to happen in our area, but our area it's been raining. That's all I know. It's
yeah,
been
no,
raining
it's the
all week.
weekend, so I'm not going anywhere. I walked,
Okay.
like I said today, to the post office, and there was not a single person outside.
Oh my
But it was
God.
just so chilly.
Uh-huh,
But
uh-huh.
it's best if the snowstorm comes on Friday, because I'm not going anywhere. I'll
Yes.
be here. But thank you so
Okay.
much, Prof,
Thank
and
you too.
for all of you who were on the bulk challenge or the
Mhm.
other ships that were taking you to a new land,
Yeah.
or to get a little respite before
Yeah.
coming back. We say you are the survivors.
Yeah.
I mean, I was reading a book. I was like, what? I know I would have died if I was on that ship.
And
But
those 10 days, you don't even have water to take bath.
yeah, and as they say, these are the days that try men's souls.
Yeah. Yeah.
But people have come out stronger. We
Mm-hmm.
want to thank you for joining us today. We want to say, please keep reading. Find Professor Nangbe's book. All you have to do is Google K Moses Nangbe books, and you'll see all these books, and you can buy them and read them. Because believe me, sometimes when they go out of print, you wouldn't find them. Prof and I, as every Friday we come here, we're looking for
For
Liberian
some
books,
books,
and
yes.
some of them they say out of print, and some of them
Yes.
they say
Yes.
$200 because they're out
Yes.
of print. And I'm like, that thing was 50
Yes.
cents in Liberia.
Yes.
Yeah. So we do thank you for joining us, and we say, join us next week. It's every
Yeah.
Friday at 6 o'clock. If you feel that there's a book you want us to read, send it to us. We will start interviewing more authors, delving more into history. I know this
Yeah.
is the literary hour, but Prof
Yeah.
and I, we really, really get involved
Yes.
in history.
Yeah, as
Yeah,
well. Yeah.
but enjoy the weekend. Prof and I stay safe, mask up.
Yes.
Tell your friends and
It's
loved
very
ones to
much
mask
important.
up.
Yes.
And let us pray that this plague or this
Yeah.
pandemic, let it lessen, and we can
Yeah.
all go outside, go to the
Yeah.
Liberian Studies Conference, that I
Yeah.
can see Prof again, we can see each other. Yeah. So thank you very much for
Okay.
listening. We ask you to join us again next Friday, same time,
Yeah.
same station. Focus on
Amen.
Liberia. Thank you
Okay.
and good
Thank
night.
you. Okay.
We are Liberians.